So in today's episode, we've got Joe Etherington. Joe is a breathwork facilitator, and it's been a long time coming getting you on, Joe. So welcome to the TBC HQ. How are you doing today, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, and thanks for having me.
Oh, mate, you're more than welcome. Apologies for all the tech issues and stuff, but let's go. So for us ridiculously simpletons on what breathwork facilitator is and does, would you mind just explaining a bit about your work and what that entails?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a facilitator of anything is somebody who helps something happen, isn't it? Breathwork itself, sort of distilled down to sort of super simple, is deliberately breathing in a certain way that will alter chemical effects of your body, mood, your state of mind, your consciousness. So it's just using different breathing techniques to bring about different effects, depending on, I suppose, what you're trying to achieve.
So is it techniques meaning like if you breathe in like hard and fast, that will do something chemically in the body? If you breathe in slow and methodical, that'll do something different in the body? Is that
100%? Yeah.
Right, okay. So what is it that sort of like led you down this path like in the first place?
You want the long version or the short version?
Long version, man. We've got all night.
Cool. All right. I mean, I got interested in breathwork a few years ago. It will be now. But the sort of lead up to me finding breathwork was a bit of a longer story, really. So depending on how far back we want to go, I've sort of been on this personal development journey. I think we all find ourselves on at some point in our life, which started off with the books, the podcasts, the self-help, the courses, the hypnotherapy, all this sort of thing. You know, trying to improve performance, mental health, and what have you. And the more I sort of learned and feel like I've grown over the last sort of eight, 9 years, perhaps, the sort of deeper down the sort of various rabbit holes I went. Now, how I arrived at breathwork was a few years ago. I had some quite powerful psychedelic experiences, which had some really profound sort of effects for me, really sort of helped me in a lot of ways. And as that helped me, you know, I was sort of thinking, wow, what this has done for me has been so powerful. It would be amazing to share these sorts of benefits and effects with other people. But of course, you can't go around distributing psychedelics to everybody.
Says who?
Says the Chesterfield police station.
Well, yeah, and a few of the others apparently. But, you know, along this sort of journey, I kept sort of hearing breath work coming up. You know, Wim Hof was starting to get really popular. You know, other things like yoga, which incorporates a lot of breath work and a lot of sort of ancient practices, seem to be getting quite popular. And I've got a good friend who in fact, you know, became my teacher, who's you know, a very good breathwork coach, and he trained under Dan Brulé, who's sort of the daddy of breathwork, I suppose. After people like Leonard or Stanislav Grof, if you're familiar with those names. And I reached out to him and I said, look, tell me about this breathwork then, because I'm interested. And, you know, he sort of knew kind of a bit about the journey I've been on, and we've got a lot of friends in common and things like that. And he said, I'll tell you what, come and spend a couple of days with me, I'll show you what it's all about. So I went to spend a couple of days with him a couple of years ago, more now. You know, we were doing some sort of 3 or 4 heavy breathwork sessions a day for a couple of days. And I was like, wow, you know, as daft as it sounds, you really can sort of bring about a lot of the same effects, similar sort of benefits and similar sort of experience as you can taking psychedelics like mushrooms and things like that. But obviously it doesn't come with legal issues, a lot of health concerns. It's free and accessible for everybody. And I said, you know what, this is something that I think I can share with people that's going to help them in the ways that I've been helped. So I joined his sort of training course, his training, spent almost a year with him, learning, going deep into breathworking, learning a lot of different techniques. And over the last year, perhaps, I've sort of been bringing this out to people and sharing it with whoever would like to come along.
I want to know a bit more about your psychedelic experience, and if it was in Peru, then my stereotypical definition of it is true.
Right.
Was it in Peru?
I can tell you I've not been to Peru, but I can also tell you don't need to go to Peru.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joe, we had, I don't know whether you've seen, but a couple of episodes ago, we had Jeff on from Vessels, which is from New Jersey, and he was very similar, like the stuff that he said to you, like he had a couple of psychedelic experiences, and his was more, he was like vomiting out all this fucking hate and shit like out of his body and all these toxins, and he said after it just felt amazing, and he then started doing classes similar to you, but I think he still dabbles with all like the microdosing and the shrooms and that, and he was saying that he loved it, all that stuff. And we were saying, like, where can we get this stuff from? Because I said I'd like to experience it, It sounds amazing, just sitting there doing the breath work. And there was a particular one that he told us to do on the podcast, and it was like a really fast breathing one through your nose. And he was like, and it probably got us off guard when he started doing it, because it's like an angry bull. Yeah.
Well, that's it, psychedelics have got a real bad rap. And, to sort of take a step back in my life, to go back a bit further, I can't say I'd have a problem, but I'd spend more time in the pub than I should be, doing things like cocaine and staying out when I should be at home with my partner and things like that. And it really became an issue. And then, so I went teetotal for a year, and then kind of got to the point where, I can go to the pub and have just one or two, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Or go to the pub and not have a drink. So I'm at a happy place. But since then, I've been really quite concerned about, or was kind of been wary about slipping back into old patterns. Now, I'm not into weed or smoking. It doesn't suit me. And psychedelics has been one of those things where I've kind of shunned from when I was younger. My old man, mushrooms, LSD when we were a kid, him and my relationship with him is another story if we've got time for it. But I always viewed psychedelics as like a loser's thing.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit daft when, I spent quite a lot of time and money stood in a pub with other blokes, snorting, money up my nose and thinking that were cool. But psychedelics, I associated with sort of hippies, which I then associated with people laying about making excuses for not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I was quite closed-minded to that world. But on this personal development journey, listen to a lot of podcasts and things like that, there's a lot of, and you probably come across it, a lot of really high achievers who've credited their success to psychedelic experiences. Steve Jobs, he almost said that Apple wouldn't have been created if it wasn't for his experiences with LSD.
That's crazy.
The guys who founded Google, they were regulars at Burning Man.
No way.
There's a lot of sort of really high achievers credit psychedelics for their success. So I started thinking, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. And started paying an interest. And then, the opportunity came up. And I thought, I'm gonna go for this. I think there's still some things I need to work on. Certainly, still some skeletons in the cupboard. I perhaps go and see what I can find. And just like your man that you mentioned there, I've spent a few long nights, making best friends with my bucket.
Yeah.
Just turning over rocks and looking in the deep, dark places of myself that I don't want to look. And, he's absolutely right. You can have a night to hell and wake up or sort of finish the next morning and go, wow, I needed that. I've really sort of made peace with some things. I've learned some things. I've let go of some things.
Yeah, that's mad. I was going to say, so like, in the way of like, like you said, if you're drinking alcohol and stuff like that, and if obviously when you get smashed, like you said, it's a little bit similar, not to like a psychedelic, but you are essentially kind of like taking your mind elsewhere through the power of something else. But I was going to say, like, with alcohol, you tend to do more, like, dumb shit and stuff like that, and then you wake up in the morning, you usually regret it. So, say if you do that kind of stuff, like you said... Yeah, like, when you do, like, psychedelics and stuff then, so you say, like, usually... you'd kind of feel amazing after it, and you'd kind of have that awakening. So the next day, do you kind of not feel like shit, and do you kind of remember the whole thing and stuff, or do you have certain like blackouts and that?
I mean, you might be a bit tired because it'd be a long old night.
Yeah.
But the way I tried to describe it to a good friend of mine, because I've got a lot of close friends, and some know about this part of my life, and some don't, and some get it, and some don't. But I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine who I've known for a while, and I said, I think the only way I can describe it is if you're in the pub, alcohol, cocaine, it says that brings out your ego. You stood in the pub, you start acting like you're bigger than you are, or things like that. I said, but psychedelics are the opposite. They just rip your ego out of your arse. There is no ego in that place. And if you try and sort of act big or pretend to be something you're not in that space, the only person you're looking at in the mirror is yourself, and you can have a hard time. So they're almost opposites in a way, in that I think to sort of forget what I didn't like and act like I was someone else in the pub. You'd have a great night and you'd feel horrible the next day. Whereas, these sorts of experiences, you'll have a long, hard night, you feel awful because you're looking at the bits you've been trying to avoid, but the next day, apart from being a bit tired, you feel incredible.
Might have to go on it.
Is that what it's all about then? Sort of bringing up stuff to the forefront of your mind that you've been pushing back, traumas and stuff, and then it puts them in like a sort of like a linear like path in your head, and you've got to sort of like deal with each one of them individually. However your body reacts, that it reacts, and then you've just got to sort of like deal with it head on. Is that what it's kind of like forces you to do?
For me, yeah, and that's what I'm looking for. Whenever I have these sort of experiences or go to these places. I've not taken, psychedelics recreationally. I've not been to parties, to festivals and done the shrooms and things like that. I've not done that. I purposely use them as a tool to sort of turn over some rocks and have a look at perhaps the things I've not been looking at. So, and part of what they do is, they will draw away energy from your prefrontal cortex, your ego, your analytical mind. The voice in our head that we use in every day.
Yeah.
It'll kind of away from that and put more energy into like the hippocampus, where you've got stored memories and more. It puts you more in your limbic system. Your reptilian brain. And what that can do then is, your brain starts going, right, let's clean house, let's have a look in here, let's have a look in there. And, so I do use it for that. I'll put some, if I do it myself or whether I'm at ceremony, the whole sort of environment is set up, the music, the environment, the sort of process, the whole process, the whole ceremony to it is designed to put you in a state where you'll go in, see what comes up, and you're absolutely right. You sit with it till you've dealt with it, or you can sort of refuse and it'll beat you up all night.
Yeah, is that a bit like the rebirth breath work then? Because I've seen quite a lot of that on your Instagram when I was having a look before.
Yeah, so the breathwork sessions are very, very similar, and I'll use, I'll try and set an environment that's sort of conducive to people sort of feeling safe enough to open up. I'll use music that can sort of hopefully stir up emotions, and ultimately breathwork is very similar. If you can give yourself to breathwork and to that experience, it can sort of quieten down the ego mind, fire up the limbic system in a very, very similar way. And if people can trust themselves to go to those places, then absolutely, things will come up, they'll release emotions, they can have physical releases, whether it's sweating, laughing, crying, shaking. And all this is the body cleaning house.
Yeah.
And is when you see people having sort of like somewhat shaking fits, or they're like very, very physically stimulated, is that trauma being like released from the body? Is that like it coming out?
Yeah, that's it. So we all, none of us go through life without experiencing some sort of difficulty, trauma, stress, anger, and rarely are we taught, or even if we're sort of told how to, rarely are we in a situation where we feel safe enough to allow these things to be processed. So we go year after year after year just storing things. Now they get recorded in our body, in the fascia, in the nervous system, in the sort of deep, dark parts of our mind. So, yeah, this is exactly about that. It's about putting you in a state where the body can then start clearing out. So the shaking, the physical shaking will be the body just starting to release trapped energy, trapped tension, and that could be linked to repressed memories, forgotten experiences you remember.
It's so mad. It makes me think like, so is like more of a natural kind of way, and trying to compare it to like, do you know, like when you just have a general like outburst and you've kind of been suppressing, and you just have like kind of like a mental breakdown, and you're releasing all that through kind of, I don't know, like splurting all that shit out. Is it kind of similar to that? But obviously, the psychedelics are helping you do it in a more, I don't know.
That's it. I mean, look, you could argue that psychedelics, breathwork, things like that are a bit of a shortcut.
Yeah.
To
yeah.
If you look at a child who's upset, they'll shake. You might have had it. I've had it in times where I've been so upset, you start to shake. You feel uncontrollable. Now, naturally, as a parent seeing a child do that, you're like, oh, no, sweetheart, it's okay. And you try and stop them because it's uncomfortable to see someone experience that. And as a grown-up, particularly as a man, if you start feeling that coming out, you're like, no, I can't feel this. You start pushing in and repressing it. But, to allow things to come through, whether it's to shake, to cry, shout, laugh, whatever. This is the body releasing and processing what's happened in that moment, or what needs to be processed in that moment. And I think, we ought to get better as a society at understanding, accepting that, and allowing people to do that sort of thing, to process things in that way.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Because it's difficult, we go to Peru, we do this, we come to breathwork sessions.
100%. So I was going. What is like an average kind of class of yours, and or do you offer like different classes? Like different ones that you can kind of go to, or?
So they all tend to have a similar sort of feel, or procedure. There are lots of different things you can do with breathwork. Like you said at the beginning, fast breathing, get yourself super energized. Wim Hof uses powerful breathwork to boost your immune system. Puts you through a state of sort of controlled stress, like the ice baths, like the cold showers, and that's to strengthen your immune system.
Yeah.
You can do very, very slow breathing through the nose, in for 5 seconds, out for 5 seconds. That will calm your nervous system, put you back into parasympathetic. So there's lots of different ones, but I'm trying to help people let go of shit they're holding on to.
Yeah.
So most of my sessions are to that end. Now, we might use different breathing techniques or breathing patterns and slightly different playlists, and some might be longer than others, depending on who's in the group, how much breath work they've done, what their appetite is for sort of getting stuck in. But my goal, and the reason I do this, is to help people let go and free themselves of the shit they've been carrying around.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was looking on your Instagram, I seen quite a few of the sessions, like on the videos that you've done, and they'd be in like dark rooms and stuff like that, and they just look so relaxing at the same time, like you could imagine nodding off. I was going to say, like, a bit of a random question, but has anyone ever been so relaxed in your class? Have they ever like fucking farted or anything like that, dead loud?
I've not heard any farts.
You've ever smelled one?
But sometimes they'll go to sleep at the end. So how I usually tend to structure is the first half will be quite heavy.
Yeah.
It might be more of a sort of holotropic breathing, very fast mouth breathing, lots of breath holds, and really get them sort of tingling, fizzing, get them, really get them out of the ego and try and let go. And then I'll switch the playlist up, get it quite emotive, really slow the breathing down. And quite often they just start pop, 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 pop. They all just start crying, And then at the end, we'll have sort of 15, 20-minute meditation. Some of our groups, we have like a gong bath and a sound bath at the end. They're super powerful. And you will get one or two snoring.
Yeah, what, actually gone to sleep?
Yeah.
No way.
Quite often, you'll hear like one person snoring over there. You're like, yeah, fair enough. They needed that, but not a fart yet.
No, I was going. So in your classes, then, did are shrooms like a thing in the classes then, or is it nothing to do with that? Is that just something that you do?
No, I don't serve anything like that in our classes now.
What do you serve?
Just fresh air.
Fresh air and some sage, maybe.
I can't stand sage. That makes my demons itch. That does. But yeah, I might burn a bit of incense and
bit of lavender.
What don't you like about sage?
So, do you know what? I don't know. I don't know. My partner burns sage occasionally, and I don't know. It just makes me itch. I think there must still be a demon inside that doesn't like it.
I was going to say, yeah, that's what it sounds like. To be fair.
I bet it is. It's things like crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls, and gongs. When people play them, my bones start crawling. There must be something inside that don't like it.
Yeah, it sounds like a little demon inside you, like screaming and going, no, no.
Yeah. So you've seen other people express their like trauma and stuff like that, but what was your experience like when you were having to express yours?
Well, at which time? There's a few.
Let's say the very first time, yeah. And where was it? What did you take? What was the setting like? Like, give us the full picture.
So my first psychedelic experience was with ayahuasca. I'm not going to say where it was, but it wasn't Peru.
Well, Jeff did that ayahuasca.
He did ayahuasca.
He said about that,
yeah. Yeah. That was my first psychedelic experience, and I've never experienced anything that mind-altering before. Never even took a mushroom, because up to that point, like I said, until not long before that, psychedelics were a time waster's game,
Yeah.
But I think around the time, I was kind of dealing with some feelings of low self-worth. So I went into this ceremony with the intention of, I want to understand where this comes from and hopefully work on that. Now, I had a long, hard night, the first night, of basically feeling or being made to feel like a worm, like a horrible, like really worthless. And there's lots of nuances to the night. There'll be journeys into this and journeys into that, but the whole sort of thing was about me and my low self-worth and perhaps some things that might have been attached to that. The second night was kind of repairing those feelings and perhaps realizations and receiving and understanding. So after the first night, you know, at the end of the ceremony, I was like, I don't think I can do that again. You know, I was in a bad way. The second night, honestly, I could have climbed a mountain after that second night.
Really?
You know, it's hard to describe, but things just started falling into place. I started just understanding things, appreciating things, letting go of stuff. You know, if you kind of see where something's coming from, or you see, you know, if you can face a problem head on, all of a sudden you sometimes realise what you thought was a big problem isn't a big problem. Or, you know, if you sit in something long enough, it loses the grip it has on you. But, you know, after the second night, I felt 6 feet tall. You know, I felt like a new man. You know, I walked in, I came home, and Melissa, my partner, she was like, "Wow, your energy is different. You know, you just, I don't know what you know."
I know what you were thinking of then. He was thinking big dick energy. Definitely was.
Well, one thing I've got to say, that afterglow after a really good ceremony, getting back to your partner and getting in each other's energy is magical.
Oh, mate.
It really is. Yeah.
Where do I sign?
I bet.
I said, where do I sign? So, I know, sorry, I was going to say, because I don't know too much about it other than the conversation we had with Jeff a couple of weeks ago. So, what was the name of it again? Sorry.
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. So, obviously, did you say that's not shrooms, is it? Is that like kind of like a bowl of like broth or something that you drink, like, for example? Like, what is it?
It is a drink, and I suppose in its, you know, realist essence, it's technically a tea.
Yeah.
Well, basically, in the jungle, and this brew is predominantly 2 plants that are boiled down and highly concentrated. One of them's got something called DMT in it, dimethyltryptamine. The other one has got an enzyme in it that prevents your stomach from breaking down the DMT.
Ah.
Because if you orally take DMT on its own, the body gets rid of it faster.
Yeah.
Too fast.
That's so mad, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, you take this drink, you get in your bed, and you just start thinking. You know, I mean, it could take a while, half an hour, sometimes to come on, but you get back in your bed and you just start thinking.
Would you ever get into your bed and just fall asleep, or would it not allow you to do that?
I usually have a bit of a nap on the second night.
Yeah.
So the process for the ceremonies are, you know, you have the opening, you set your intentions, you know, there's a whole sort of procedure to it. You know, people are very, very, at least, you know, who I you know, go to, are very, very respectful of the whole ceremony and the traditions around what this is. So there's a lot of that to it. And then, you know, you serve the first drink, you go and lay down, you start meditating and thinking. And then a short while after, you go and get another cup.
Yeah.
Quite often on the second night, because you're usually pretty tired by then, I'll often have a nap between the first cup and second cup. But yeah, no, when it kicks in, you ain't sleeping.
I was going to say, are you allowed your phone as well? Because I imagine that'd be quite dangerous if you've got your phone in your hand and you're fucking tripping balls.
Get the phone out of the way, to get that in a different room. Thing is, you know, whenever you do anything like that, same as a breathwork ceremony, you're there to do some work.
Yeah.
You know, you're there to do some work. You don't want to be on the phone. You don't want that energy around you.
Defo.
You know, so no, the phone's in a different room and you get to work.
Yeah. So, I sorry to ask loads of questions, but I'm just fucking so interested in it. Are these like are these like quite underground, these events, and like, because obviously so you can't just type it in on Google and find it? Is it more word of mouth, and then you find out and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going there, and then cash only kind of vibes?
What I'd say, if you found one on Google in the UK, don't go to it.
Oh yeah. Fair enough.
if they're going to be that open about what they're doing, you know, and you can just sort of get in touch and turn up. Yeah, you don't want to be in that place.
Yeah. Why is it illegal? Is it just an illegal substance like marijuana, for example?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. So LSD, mushrooms, ayahuasca or DMT, they're all Class A's. They're all in the same bed as cocaine, crack, heroin.
That's mad. And do you find it is quite addictive? Like, you know...
No, not anyway, no. In fact, the antithesis of addictive. It's physically impossible to get addicted to mushrooms, DMT, things like that. In fact, in a lot of countries where either it's legal, in South America it's even protected. You know, in a lot of countries it's used to treat addiction. Yeah,
because I know, like you said, it's impossible to get addicted, but do you find sometimes people can get addicted to that feeling of like that amazing feeling when you're drinking it, and like they just want to fucking go all the time because they love that feeling? Or do you feel like after it you feel a bit cleansed, and like you said, it's a bit tiring on the body and stuff? So, because how often would you say you go, or do you not really go anymore? Was it?
So when I first found it, I went through a phase of going quite regularly.
Yeah.
For a bit, you know, once every couple of months, perhaps.
Yeah.
For a while now, and then now it might be once a year, a couple of times a year, maybe. You know, nice. Don't get me wrong. Sort of occasionally in between, you know, I'll sort of have a dose of mushrooms. And sort of do the same sort of thing, you know, on my own. But what I find with these is I've come across people who've done this sort of thing 10, 15, 20, 30 times and more, and they've still got shit going on in their lives they're not dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, but if you go to anything like this, you do anything like this, whether it's ayahuasca, mushrooms, breathwork even, things will come up for you, and if you're diligent and you look at things properly, you'll come out of that knowing there's some changes you need to make. You know, it'd send you off with some homework.
Yeah.
And where people come unstuck is they want all the work done for them. They want to go and that's going to fix them without having to do any of it themselves.
Yeah.
But you can go once in your lifetime. And if you go home and do the work and make the changes that you've discovered you need to make, once could be enough. So, I don't know if that answered your question. Some people will keep going, but, you know, at risk of offending any of these people if they're watching, I would venture that if you're going all the time, you're perhaps not doing the work in between.
Yeah. No, definitely, because like you said before, I think you said at the start, like, you can go and it something to do with the brain. I think you said, like, your front cortex or something like that, it can humble it and stuff, like, when you've got that slight arrogance and stuff, and like you said, it sounds like you do come away from it, and you did come away from it kind of refreshed, and you learnt a lot, but like you said, some people might just go to get fucking high and have a mint time and not using it for the right kind of thing. I don't know. But it sounds amazing. I'd love to do it. So
yeah, I've seen people in ceremony. They've come in full of ego and I want to see what this is all about. And life's good and blah blah. And, the next day they tend to have the roughest nights.
Yeah.
I've sat with people in ceremony. The next day they've got they're coming all full of ego. And one person he sat there the next day and he goes, I thought I was a good person before I came here.
Really?
But now, actually, I'm not so sure. He'd really been given some home truths. And
wow,
really
proper humbled.
Really humbled him. And that's the same for a lot of people. And I've been severely humbled, a few times. But But I think that's beautiful. You know, when you see people next day, they go, do you know what? I've been humbled, I've learned some things, I've got some changes to make. There's nothing for me that sort of warms my heart more. You know, it is really, really beautiful to see and to experience.
No, I could imagine. I was going to say, like, going back to the breath work, I was thinking before when you was talking about it, is there anything like that in sport? Because when you were saying it before, I could imagine it could possibly be something good. Say in football, for example. Do you know, maybe like before a big game, or do you know what I mean? And like someone goes in and does breath work with them and kind of like gets them out of their own heads and into that mind frame. Is that a thing, or?
Yeah, people have been using breath work to help with their mindset a lot. I mean, you know, the Navy SEALs have been talking about box breathing for years.
That's what I told you about the other day. I told him about the box breathing. That's where you do the deep breath in, isn't it? Hold it, and then the deep breath out. Yeah, because I see...
Hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4.
The box breathing, it says, because it gets you ready to go into like a situation what's a bit intense or something, doesn't it?
Really does calm your nervous system. Yeah. Look, Wim Hof's been working with high performers for a long time, using, you know, quite intense breathing to sort of get you energised, get you oxygenated, get you pumped, get you ready to go. So yeah, I mean, people have been using breath work one way or another, sometimes even without realising it or calling it breath work. You know, this is nothing new, and as it gets more popular, lots of people are taking it on.
Yeah, it's even like with kids. Like, you still tell kids today, don't you, when they're getting worked up, take a deep breath. That's probably where it all stems from and shit. Because like when you do take a deep breath, even the other day when we was at home, my kids was doing something that was just fucking, you know, just driving you fucking nuts, just doing fucking dumb shit, and I just stopped and I went, took a dead deep breath, and my partner started laughing her head off, and she was like, it's so funny you just took a deep breath, and I was like, it was fucking necessary, like, do you know what I mean? But it does, though, sometimes it just helps you reset sometimes, doesn't it? Like, you know,
100%. I mean, you know, situations like that, whenever we find ourselves getting stressed, I don't know if you've noticed, next time we do, you know, pay attention, we hold our breath. We'll stop breathing. You know, I've got young children, the same as you, and when they're getting worked up, they hold the breath, they stop breathing.
Yeah.
You know, if you get stressed, you'll find you hold your breath. All you've got to do, and it just, you feel everything just relax.
Yeah. Do you ever do any of that with your kids? That kind of breath work?
Yeah.
Do they enjoy it?
My daughter loves it. Yeah, my daughter loves it. My little boy is 6 now. And he plays around a bit. He's like, yeah, can I do some breath work with you? And yeah, no problem. But he like giggles and he finds it fun. My daughter, she's 8 at the minute.
Yeah.
She loves it. She'll put the eye mask on. She gets super relaxed. She gets right into it. She loves it.
That's wild good.
Wow, she's going to be one like Zen individual when she gets older. If she keeps doing this, like nothing will phase her, like ever. So it's a good.
At the minute, phase her at the minute, but I'm hoping she grows up with some good tools.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when she gets into situations when she's older and she might be like, I don't know, in a job or something, she'll be able to handle it.
Just even imagine her going into her exams when she's like 12 and like everyone's quiet and she's just breathing dead loud at the back of the fucking hall.
Getting a pen out, like breathing on the pen, like, let's do this, let's get an A, boy, let's go.
That's it, yeah.
That's mega.
And that you know, that's the thing, these are tools that, you know, we need to be teaching not only ourselves but our kids. You know, it's like allowing them to process the emotions. And don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of it occasionally, and I've certainly been guilty of it in the past. You know, if they're getting really worked up, the natural sort of instinct is to stop, and you think you're helping, you want to try and stop them from feeling like that. You know, but allowing them to sort of process emotions, but also teaching them tools to help soothe themselves, like take a deep breath if you're getting upset.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, we need to learn these, and we need to be teaching the kids.
And as well, they're so easy. Like to tell your kid or a young person, just take a deep breath. Like, it's not exactly mind bending, is it?
No.
but it can be so powerful to take that extra like 2 seconds before you start acting, or like do something on impulse.
Yeah,
I bet it can be a lifesaver.
Breathing or being conscious of the way you breathe is really useful, really helpful in any situation. Even like this, if you're having a conversation with somebody, if you consciously breathe in as someone's speaking, or take a deep breath and a pause after someone spoke, you're giving yourself time for that person to what they're saying to actually sink in. Most of us will just sit here waiting for our time to speak, and we shut our mouth and hold our breath, and then it's our turn to speak, out we go. If you're in a conversation with someone, try it with your partner. Even if you're listening to them, you've no interest in what they're saying, you want to gossip about work and this, that, and the other. Just sit and just breathe, and you'll find yourself really sort of present, and they will feel that. And little things like that are really, really powerful.
Joe, do you know of any like test that you could do to see if you've got stored trauma in your body? Albeit doing a somewhat like breath exercise or whatever, but is there something you can do to sort of like identify if you actually have got stored trauma in your body?
You have to put your finger at your ass.
I've not got stored trauma.
That's another thing in your body you want to get out as quick as you can, really.
It's true.
I think it's fair to say, we could all start from the assumption that we're carrying something around with us that we could do with letting go of. I think if we all started with that assumption, you can't go far wrong. But, if you find yourself in a situation and your immediate reaction is, frustration or anger, or, if you find yourself shutting down in something that's difficult or confrontational, which we all do.
Definitely.
What that shows is you lack the ability to sort of conduct yourself or carry yourself comfortably in that situation or that environment. Now, you think, well, where did that come from? If you're in a bit of a disagreement or an argument with your partner, and your immediate reaction is to shut down, well, that's not healthy, and that's something you've learned as a coping mechanism, probably.
100%.
From not feeling perhaps at some point in your life where you can sort of hold your boundaries, or where you not feeling like you can express yourself, or not feeling heard, not feeling seen. So I think the easiest way to understand if there's something there, perhaps, and not necessarily what it is or where it's from, but paying attention to how you react in difficult situations or uncomfortable situations, that will tell you a lot.
That's not a bad example, really, because I very much used to. That's why Jay put his hands on my shoulders a minute ago, because like that first initial reaction was frustration, anger, and impulse, whereas like I 99% don't do that anymore. So that's a sign that like I've been able to let go without doing purposeful breath work or anything of that nature. But that is a good like sort of stimulus to look out for. If someone can't control their emotions in an uncomfortable situation, they're more than likely hanging on to something from either like their childhood, maybe their teenage years or whatever, just something that's still clinging onto them, that's controlling their reactions.
Yeah, it's very, very similar to what Robin said to us as well, I think, in terms of you don't even realise a lot of the things that you do when you react to stuff. It probably is just walls that you built up from your childhood, and because you've been conditioned to like respond in certain ways or act in certain ways. That's just your natural response to kind of stuff without even realising, like you said, and a lot of it won't even be because of that person. Like it might just be, like you said, from your childhood, someone's made you feel a type of way growing up. Like, like a lot of the stuff in my case was from my dad growing up, and that's been the way I respond to stuff growing up, and I've had to do a lot of work on that to kind of not be like that. And do you know what I mean? And it's mad. I was going to say, like, so in your instance, I don't know, like, say if you and the missus ever got into a bit of a, you know, a disagreement or something, would you ever like kind of start doing certain breath works? And would she ever go, don't fucking breathe like that? I know what you're fucking doing, or anything like that?
No. There's two parts to this answer. One, me and my partner never fall out, in spite of me having given her many opportunities to dig me out. But the other part of that is my partner. I'm very, very lucky. She's extremely supportive. Me and her have been on this journey together. We're on the same page with a lot of things.
Oh, really? That's so good.
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, if we were having a difficult conversation and I said, look, I just need a minute.
That's so good that you're both on that thingy together. Because like, if I did that to my partner, like if she was having a difficult go, and I was like, she'd probably like throw a shoe at me or something. You know?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, you know, you can pick your moments, and you know, stopping and taking a bit of a deep breath in when she's saying something could be taken as being a bit sort of inflammatory, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, I'm very lucky in that way, really.
So do you both bang the shrooms out together, or?
Yeah.
That's mint. So jealous.
I know. Again, not in Peru, but definitely Peru. So what whilst we're on childhood, Joe, you mentioned you had have a bit of a bit of turmoil relationship with your dad, was it?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit like about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, you know, this whole thing's a bit of a long story, really. You know, so, you know, I'll try and sort of make it, try and sort of keep on track with this, really. But when I was a kid, my dad was my hero. You know, it was fun, cool. Really enjoyed spending time with him. But as I grow up and transitioned into sort of, you might say, manhood, although, you know, this sort of started from early teens. What was like the fun, cool dad that we're going to see at the weekends and take us here and do this and what have you, all of a sudden, you know, I'd start noticing that he was an alcoholic, that, you know, drugs all the time, and, you know, all of a sudden I'd learned that drugs were a bad thing, and, you know, unemployed, and, you know, no food in the cupboards, and all this sort of thing. And then I think you naturally, as a man, start to push yourself away from your father, to reject your father anyway, to a degree. I think that's quite a natural process. And you know, there really was a very large wedge sort of driven between us, particularly as I had children myself, and what it meant to be a father was something that was, you know, obviously very dear to me, as it will be you. That sort of really pushed a bigger gap between me and him, and I really did start to resent him, felt a huge amount of anger towards him, displayed a lot of that anger to him, distanced myself from him quite heavily, you know. And part of the work I've done over the last few years is around that, my relationship with him, but also how that fits into my role as a father, you know, how his father was with him and how that shaped him, and how him as a father shaped me, and how I want to sort of shape my son, or what father I want to be for my son. So that whole thing has been a hell of a journey, you know, for me. Now, on the other side of that, or you know, a sort of big part of this thing around mental health, masculinity, being a dad, things like that, really are it kind of come to a head quite recently, if I'll say. I lost my dad quite recently. He passed away in March, 1st of March.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that, Joe.
Thank you. He chose to take his own life. Yeah, he took his own life. He tried a few times before, and this time he did it. So that's been quite tough. But what I've been spending a lot of time on over the last couple of years is learning to sort of understand and appreciate who he was, why he was who he was, understand the parts of him in me that I thought were me and aren't and I've let go of, like drinking, things like that, like not feeling perhaps as if I'm or being concerned that I'm not showing up properly as a father, but also getting to appreciate good parts of him that I'd forgotten and honouring that in him and also in myself, because as I distanced myself from him, I tried to be the exact opposite of what he was, but actually he did have some fantastic qualities as well, which I'd allowed myself to forget.
Yeah.
So I mean, this whole thing, around him is a big old story. We can go down lots of rabbit holes. Parenthood, masculinity, men's mental health, and suicide. We'd be at it all night. But my relationship with him since sort of puberty up until now has been something I've had to do a lot of work around.
Yeah. I suppose, like you said before, it's about harnessing the good qualities that he has taught you and that you're utilising now to your kids that are from him, like the positive ones that I suppose that you have to remember and be like, oh yeah, my dad used to do that with me and that's why I do that with my kids. Like you said, he always shown up and give you good energy and took you places, and I bet you do that for your kids. And it's like, well, if my dad hadn't have done that, it would have just been on the settee while we turned up to his house. You might have done that to your kids, but he didn't. He showed up. He was there. He was present. So you're taking that.
Usually, yeah. I mean, there were times where he didn't turn up to pick us up at a weekend, and God knows where he'd be and things like that. But as a young lad, the time I spent with him, I loved every minute of it. It wasn't until I got older. An example might be, when we were kids, he'd bundle me and my sisters in the car. We'd drive out in the countryside. We'd be in the woods, climbing the rocks. We'd just have a great day out in the countryside and we'd love it. And then I look back as an adult and I think, he'd sort of be driving us round in not quite a stolen car, but like a beat-up old Escort. There'd be no tax, no MOT, no insurance, barely road legal. Can of special brew between his legs, and that'll probably be his third or fourth one. And I'd look back and think, there's no way on earth I could do that with my kids in the back of the car.
No, what, like health and safety? Like, where are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't mind taking some risks and some gambles, but not with the kids in the back of the car. How you want to, spend your time is one thing, but when the kids are there, you be a certain thing, don't you?
Yeah.
So I'd look back and think how wrong it was, and I'd feel like, instead of sort of remembering the joy, I'd feel angry about it. And particularly in the last couple of months since he passed away, and I think his funeral really helped me with this, is remembering one quality that he had was he loved fully. I've never met anyone before or since who could openly love as much as he did. He was incredibly loving, incredibly affectionate. He really wore his heart on his sleeve and he loved openly. And that's something I've tried to do more now. And that's one thing I look at and think, do you know what? What a quality. What a quality. So, I think what's important, and this comes back to, old experiences and memories and sort of re-looking at things that perhaps have a negative memory or a negative feeling attached, you go back and look at them, and if you look properly, quite often you'll see a lot of good and a lot of beauty in that. And if you can change your association with a person, a place, an event, from what was bad about it to actually what was beautiful about it, that's where I think we find freedom.
Yeah, defo. I just want to say as well, like I'm really sorry as well. Obviously, about that, I just think it's incredibly sad. But obviously, when people take their own lives, but like you said, everyone has like their own demons and stuff, don't they? In everyday battles and stuff like that. But yeah,
yeah. He was a troubled man, a very troubled man, sadly.
But I suppose it's showing you a lot of positives, which you're then going to pass on to your children. So it's not sort of like in vain, if you know what I mean. Like you're gonna uphold his memory in the highest esteem with how you treat your children and the type of father that you're going to be. So I'm sure, like wherever he is now, will be like buzzing how you're parenting your kids.
Yeah, I've let go of the anger I had for him. Any anger and resentment. I've remembered what was important. Obviously there's lots of things that were to me inexcusable and really not okay. But I choose not to hold on to that, and I choose to remember that he was, an open, loving man. He would never hide how he felt about somebody, and there was a lot good, and I choose to remember that now. Whereas for many, many years, I held on to anger and resentment, and that was wrong, and that was wrong, and that.
Yeah, defo. Do you feel like that's what led you to get into all this kind of stuff, or was it just something totally different?
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. I mean, when I first sort of got into, let's say, personal development, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. I think perhaps we all do to a degree, or have at some point. Is I feel like there's a life I want to have and a life I'm living, and I'd look and think, well, I've got this, but I want this. What's stopping me getting that? What is it about me? What skills do I need to learn? What is it about my personality, my education? What's the gap? And I set off on a journey trying to fill that gap. And no matter how much I learned, I would never closing the gap.
Yeah.
So then it went from sort of personal development, mindset, Tony Robbins, all this, to, then learning about psychology, trauma and things like that. So they went from sort of the rah-rah self-help books to like the deep sort of psychological and spiritual sort of books. And then, I started to appreciate how much, experiences throughout our lives shape who we are, or rather the way we deal with, understand and what we associate with our experiences is that shapes us. So then I set about understanding that aspect and how to heal and work on that aspect. And then I always knew that this relationship with my father was, I always assumed that was a big part of it. So, yeah, to answer your question, I didn't go into directly. I did go into the first ceremony knowing that, or expecting that this relationship with Dad would be a part of it, and it was. But so I think what I was searching for was perhaps a little bit more broad than just this thing with my dad.
Yeah.
But I've always been aware that has been a big part of who I am and something I've needed to work on.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's similar to a lot of people, isn't it? Like, doing all that kind of self-reflection, going down different routes and all that like kind of like we've done a lot of that counselling. Yeah. Ryan listens to shitloads of podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, no, defo. I was going to ask as well. I think this is like my last question I've got anyway. I don't know if you have any more.
I have got one. I think it's a bit better than this one.
Yeah, you go for it then, yeah.
So, have you got a memory, Joe, that you think back when you was a kid with like your sisters and your dad, where you think, how the fuck am I still alive? because I've got a good example, but you know, where you just think like when he got you in the car and you know, no seatbelts on, 5 years in a 3-seater, and you're just like, how am I still here? Because like this guy didn't really give a flying fuck. He just got us from A to B by any means necessary. So have you got any example of that?
Yeah, there'll be a few. Every weekend we're bombing around the Derbyshire countryside, you know, 3 cans of special brewing in a beetle pole banger. So at any one point we could have rolled down a hill, you know. There was one particular time, I forget what age I was, maybe 9 or 10. My dad's partner at the time had family down at Folkestone. A lot of people sort of set off down in the car. There wasn't room in the car. My dad goes, tell you what, we'll hitchhike. So we got dropped off at, which services was it? It might have been Woodhall Services, I think, on the M1. You know, and Dad had got his thumb out. I think the first car that picked us up was, again, it might have been a stolen, it was an old Fiesta. Two heroin addicts in driving it. I didn't know at the time, it was after my dad was saying, do you remember him talking about what they were saying about this smoke? And he went, that's heroin. Right. And what these guys were doing is they got a stolen credit card. They drive up and down the motor and the services buying oil from the garages, like cans of car oil, and drive back up and down, trying to get a refund, but trying to get cash. Getting refund cash. So these guys were on this scam going up and down the M1. They were the first people to pick us up.
Wow.
And even as naive as I was at that age, even now, like,
dodgy.
This is a shady situation, you know. That was one. You know, and again, one of those memories where you look back as a father and think, what kind of dad puts his kid in that situation? You know, there's all sorts of weird. Yeah,
it's loads.
Pretty cool memory at the same time, though.
It is. It's got a good mixture.
I've never hitchhiked, so you know.
It's a wonderful fabric of life, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you mine quickly because it is a quick one. When it was to do with my son really, watching my dad, as in the granddad, was on holiday, and I think he was about 7 months old, and. My dad was like, I'll take him for a walk in his pram, get him off to sleep so you can, you know, chill by the pool and that. So I was like, oh, cool, nice one. So he's wandering around the pool doing a few laps and stuff. And I look up and like, is he asleep, Dad? And he's like, no. But what I've done is I've put the flap of the pram down so the sun goes on his eyes, so he'll close his eyes. Right. And I was like, you fucking what? And he was like, yeah, because when he looks up at the sun, he closes his eyes like that. And I was like, you trying to fucking blind the kid?
Might be why he wears glasses now.
I was like, Dad, put that fucking sheet up over that pram and keep that baby out that sun, you fucking idiot.
That's so funny.
But like pure, like just naivety going, he shuts his eyes when he looks at the sun. It's like, well, yeah, because the sun is going to burn his fucking eyelids off. That's why. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yeah, your logic is so flawed, mate. Don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, he put us in some shady situations, you know, some sticky situations, and I mean, at the time, you know, just going along with things because you're a kid. But yeah, there's quite a few things, you know, taking us to places we've got no business being in. Illegal raves in a quarry full of like bikers and Hell's Angels that drinking meths and. You know, just take us as kids to places you've got no business taking a kid, you know. At the time, like I said, I thought it was cool, but you look back and think, what the fuck are you thinking?
Gotta be honest, I'm pretty envious of your childhood there, Joe.
Oh, well...
I'm joking. Well,
it is what it is. It's not what I'd give my children.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, the thing with stuff like that, and you know what I like about what you guys are doing and the work I do is, you know, you can sort of get to a point in life and you can look back and think, right, well, some things weren't right. I've got some things I need to work on, and you set about doing that.
Definitely.
What I struggle with now, I'm kind of sort of understand this, is you find adults who are still clinging on at 40, 50, 60.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad didn't look, so that's why I'm this. You know, not living to their potential, not dealing with things, you know, not showing up as a parent because their parents didn't, and things like that. And that's something I struggle with.
That's exactly my dad, that. It's exactly what my dad was like.
Yeah.
Like you said, in his 50s, and I don't speak to my dad now, and I'm at peace with it, like you said, like you was and stuff. But yeah, he was very much like that. Blamed everything on his mum and dad when he was a kid, and that's why he is the way he is. And he was like stubborn, narrow-minded, like he was like homophobic, racist. He was just like a horrible fucking man. And it'd be like, yeah, it's because of X, Y, and Z. And I'd be like, mate, like, you're fucking 50 years old, man. Like, let go. Like, because you're the only person you're affecting is yourself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then you're pushing that onto other people. And then, like, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone in his life just pushed themselves away from him because of his negative energy. Because, like you said, can't let go of the past. And, like, that's what you've got to do. Because if I clung on to all the shit with my dad, like... Do you know what I mean? I'd be carrying that around, and like you said, you best just be at peace with it. It's like, I understand why you was the way you was, but it's like, move on, like, let go of it. Don't let it. Do you know what I mean? It's mad. But, yeah,
I completely agree. I heard it happened to Jimmy Carr. He was on a podcast recently. I forget which one it was.
Was it the Diary of a CEO?
He's done a couple, hasn't he?
I think he's getting about a bit, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he said something, and I think it was that one. He said something. He said there ought to be like a statute of limitations on like childhood trauma and shit. As in, you know, there comes a point where, all right, I understand, you know, yes, that you can that's an excuse or reason, whatever. There comes a point in your life where, like, no, enough's enough. You're a grown man, you're a grown woman. You can't use an excuse anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, it might be true. Yes, it might have shaped your life. But you're responsible now for dealing with it.
Yeah, we only get one chance around as well. So do you want to spend your whole life fucking carrying that weight around, or do you want to try and fucking let go? Especially like you said, when you've got your own kids, you don't want to pass it on to your kids, because then you're just passing it on, and that's where that generational thing kicks in. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, my old man was like yours. I think he lost his mum when he was 15, and you know he'll be 60 in a couple of weeks if he was still alive. And you know he's still that angry, hurt 15-year-old boy that's lost his mum. You know, his old man, you know, turned to drink. I think they were drinkers anyway. You know, and just sat down and drank, and my old man basically did the same. And rather than dealing with it, you know, he arrived at the point where he decided he couldn't do it anymore. You know, and no, I don't ever see anybody go that far. And that's part of why I do what I do, because I want to give people the opportunity.
Yeah, you want to help.
To let go.
Yeah.
Carrying around.
No, it's good that you're trying to help people based on, you know, what you've suffered, and it's the giving back, which is meant, and it's rewarding in itself. But knowing that you've actively give someone an opportunity to not do it and go and deal with the problems must be very rewarding for you.
There's no better feeling, is there? There's no better feeling. I had a guy come to me a few weeks ago. Nice guy. his wife's been going to my partner. My partner does Reiki and energy healing. She's very, very gifted. And his wife's been going to Melissa for a while now. And she'd been telling my partner, look, my husband is angry all the time. We're falling out. He's shouting at the kids. He's constantly angry. He's getting in trouble at work. She kept saying, look, send him to come and see Joe. Get him to come and see Joe. Anyway, he eventually reached out. Now, hats off to the guy. It takes a lot for a bloke to message another bloke and say, look, I need some help.
Definitely.
He came to see me, basically sat down, just opened up for an hour and a half about his whole life, and ultimately the crux of it was he was getting angry all the time, causing problems with his wife, his kids at work, this, that and the other. And I said, right, just lay down here, got him laid down, took him through a breathwork session. Now, usually my sessions are an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how long people need. This guy was done in about 45 minutes. God knows where he went. Anyway, he sat up and he said, I don't know what you've done. I said, something has physically left my body.
Wow.
I said, right, so tell me about it. And he goes, he says, at first he said it was a bit weird. I thought I was sinking into the floor. He put his hands out like that. He said, I put my hands out because at first I thought you'd got a trap door and I was falling through. He said, now this guy's never done any drugs, never done psychedelics, likes a pint, never done any drugs, don't smoke, nothing, right? Never done anything like that, nor has he any interest in it. So this was completely new. Anyway, he said, I just went off somewhere. He says, I was shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, getting smaller and smaller. All right. He said, I found myself walking down this path. He says, I was walking down this path, all brambly, a bit of a woodland path. I was going down and going down. And as I'm walking down, I'm getting smaller and smaller. He says, I could hear my kids behind me going, no, Daddy, it's this way. Daddy, come back this way. He says, I'm walking down, I'm getting smaller and smaller. He says, and eventually I just stopped. He says, I turned round, and just as I turned around, started going back up. He says, something has physically left my body. He said, I just started walking up and then running and running and running. As I'm heading back towards my kids, I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He says, I don't know what you've done. He says, but something has physically left my body.
Wow.
He goes, he said, you've changed my life.
Oh my God.
I said, let me know how you get on in a few days. Drop me a message. Anyway, he's been going to therapy. He's had a therapist for a couple of years, I gather. And I asked my partner like a week or so after. I said, look, how's he getting on? Because I've not heard from him. She sees his wife regular. He sacked his therapist. He rang his therapist up and said, look, I've been seeing you for years. He said, that session did more for me in an hour than you've done. But he sacked his therapist. He's not falling out at work. His lads at work are going, mate, you're different. His relationship with his wife getting better. From what I hear, things at home are better. He's a bit more calm with the family.
Wow, that's mad.
What's better than being able to give a gift like that to somebody?
Yeah, not much. Not much you can give that's better. No.
No, I'd love to say every session I do with someone is that powerful. But that's not an unusual thing. What better gift to give people than that? But I didn't even charge him. He says, how much are you? I said, look, don't worry about it. I said, for a bloke to reach out to another bloke and ask for help, he said, that took a big thing, that. I said, don't worry about it. Because there's nothing he could have given me that would have meant more to me than that anyway.
Yeah, that is mint that you sort of took that as payment. It's well, just go and have a good life, then I'll take that as my fee.
Yeah. There's nothing he could have given me that made me feel better than hearing, his wife say, do you know what, he's so much better at home. The lads at work are noticing a change in him. What a gift. No.
I wonder what, it was, that fucking, left his body kind of.
Does it matter?
No, of course not.
Matter, does it?
That's amazing.
Whatever it was, it's helped make positive changes in his life.
No.
Or has it fixed him? Probably not. Does he perhaps still have some work to do? 100%.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Lay down on the floor, breathe in and out for an hour, and something like that can happen.
It's amazing.
It's magic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it sounds like there's no negatives to doing it if you're willing to and you want to.
No. Well, that's it, and that's exactly the point. You've got to be willing. You've got to want to. You've got to be open to allowing yourself to go somewhere that might be uncomfortable. And if you are, then that can take a lot of courage. But if you can, then there's a lot of gold in there. There really is.
100%. Well, thank you so much anyway, Joe, for coming on. I think we're going to wrap it up because Ryan needs a poo. So, but honestly, it's been amazing, mate. And I've learned a lot. And like I said earlier, I'm so interested in it, and I'd love to do it one day myself. Like, not even the fucking psychedelic shit, just the actual breath work. It all sounds amazing.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a lot of great facilitators out there, not just me. There'll be someone local to you. I mean, look, if you're ever down my way, you'd be more than welcome. I'd love to do that for you, But there are some really good facilitators out there, and if you find one, I urge anybody to give it a try. But go in with an open mind, be willing to, give yourself over to whatever you might need to experience.
Yeah, leave your ego at the door.
Yeah, you'll not regret it.
No, well, thank you very much for your time, your patience, Joe, at the start, and being dead open about the stuff about your dad, and like massive condolences about definitely. That. And I wish you, your family, your wife, your kids, absolutely all the best. You've been amazing.
Thank you, and I've really enjoyed this, and I love the work you do. Sharing a lot of this thing and having these conversations with different people. More people need to be having these conversations, and these sorts of conversations need to be shared with a lot more people. So I think what you guys are doing are great, and I'm really grateful to have been invited to be part of it.
Oh, mate, you're more than welcome. And thank you very much again, Joe. You enjoy the rest of your Friday evening.
Have a lovely weekend, mate.
Have a lovely weekend. See you later, Joe. Take care.